favorite movie review channel, Man Cinema Reviews, with its ever so lovely host, Peter Man. Hey, that's me. What's up, y'all? Happy Halloween! You know it's the highly anticipated, long-awaited Halloween ep. Also is the countdown to the top 10 horror movies released in my birth year, 1987. Let's take it back. But before we do that, go ahead and press like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell as well to notify you of any and all reviews to the channel. Before we get into the top 10, I just want to give a shout out to all these streaming services, Max, Tubi, Peacock, and King & Clutch, as well as some physical media, and you gotta love it. Going into my top 10, now I'm cheating here with the 10th spot, classified as action sci-fi, but with its undeniable horror iconography, you know I'd be remiss not to include it, and that is Predator, directed by John McTiernan, starring Arnold Schwarzenegger. This tells the story of Dutch, a soldier of fortune hired by the U.S. government to rescue a group of politicians trapped in Guatemala. When him and his team go down to Central America, something gravely goes wrong. After finding a string of dead bodies, the crew discovers that they're not alone, being hunted by a brutal creature. So this gives way to Predator 2 and the latest Prey film, also one-off series, Alien vs. Predator. This is a no-holds-barred action thrill ride. Arnold Schwarzenegger, Jesse the Body Ventura, Carl Weathers, and Shane Black, who goes on to make his own The Predator film, to varying results. But like I said, back in '87, this had to be scary to somebody, and it just goes to show that it is a fun film to put on during the Halloween season. Going on to the next film. Now this is more of like an after-school special, psychological thriller, but it is classified as a horror, and this is The Stepfather, starring Terry O'Quinn and Jill Schoeman. The film tells the story of Jerry Blake, a family man, but he happens to have a series of families, with each one receiving end of his murderous whims. When Jerry sets his sights on a lovely widow named Susan and her headstrong daughter Stephanie, it appears that his brutal pattern of killings will continue. However, Stephanie is on to him and suspects that there's something wrong with this seemingly well-adjusted Jerry. Jill Schoeman, just a dead ringer for Jennifer Love Hewitt, and that is my horror queen. I Know What You Did Last Summer. Whew, you know what it is. Terry O'Quinn as Jerry is super menacing, scary when he gets into his fits. Just is very terrifying, and it's just a film that also has its slasher sequels, Stepfather 2, Stepfather 3, and also a remake back in 2009. Like I said, very tame to today's standards. It did have some racy scenes though. I mean, Stephanie has to hear her mom and stepfather go at it, so she definitely has to put on her Walkman and tune out that. Also, there is some nudity, so again, like I said, very tame in its horror aesthetic, but you know it's a 80s staple if it's got some racy material in it. Going on to number 8, this is A Nightmare on Elm Street 3, Dream Warriors. This is during a hallucinatory incident, young Kristen Parker has her wrist slashed by a dream-stalking monster Freddy Krueger. Her mother mistakes the wounds for a suicide attempt, sending Kristen to a psychiatric ward, joining in a group of similarly troubled teens. When the doctor's there is Nancy Thompson, who has battled Freddy. That's not the case, because Freddy comes back in numerous films after this, but this was also a great sequel, with number 2 having no semblance of the first film. It's great that Heather Langenkamp comes back to this film, and again gets the start of Patricia Arquette and Lawrence Fishburne, which you love to see. And as cheesy and sketchy as this film is, it has developed a cult classic following, and you gotta love it. Directed by Wes Craven, one of our greatest horror directors out there. You gotta watch Nightmare on Elm Street 3. Give it another whirl. Dream Warriors is one of the funnest, and if not the best sequels in its series. Going on to another horror veteran, and this is John Carpenter in the number 6 spot, The Prince of Darkness. Now, this is a film that I recently saw. I've never seen it before, and I'm definitely glad that I checked it out. This film is centralized on a priest, Donald Pleasance, finding an otherworldly vial of green slime. Frightened, he begins to discover a top scholar and scientist who eventually learned that the strange liquid is the essence of Satan. The slime then begins to seep out, becoming Satan personified. This was a film that is a apocalypse trilogy, if I'm not mistaken. The first film is The Thing, this being the second film, and it concludes with The Mouth of Madness, which I've never seen. And this film, to varying degrees, is successful. It gives way to an allegory of AIDS at the time, which was at its peak in '87. So I like that for this. I mean, these scientists and scholars have reoccurring dreams that are similar. It's at an abandoned church in LA. The dreams begin with a sequence of this demonic voice giving way to some kind of evil presence that will wreak havoc in the year 1999 of all years. And there is like this demonic figure that is in the entryway. Again, really heady just material here, but it is starring Victor Wong, Donald Pleasance, who are just vets and frequent John Carpenter collaborators. First time seeing it, and I just had a blast. It was interesting to watch, and definitely just an interesting film in John Carpenter's filmography. At number 7, if you haven't seen it, Prince of Darkness, I do recommend it. Now, going on to number 6, this is The Lost Boys, directed by Joel Schumacher. This tells a tale of teenage brothers Michael, Jason Patrick, and Sam Corhane that moved with their mother to a small town in Northern California. When the younger Sam meets a pair of kindred spirits and geek comic book nerds, Edward, Corey Feldman, and Alan Jameson Newlander, the angst-ridden Michael soon falls for star Jamie Gertz, who turns out to be enthralled to David, Kiefer Sutherland, leader of a local gang of vampires. Great cast, definitely 80s. It's cool to have that reference in the film Us. It opens up with the main character as a little girl. She's on the boardwalk. The parents notice that they're filming something on the boardwalk. It happens to be The Lost Boys. It's definitely a horror staple in the 80s. Now, it's not a masterpiece, but it is a seemingly rewatchable film. The music, the score, Kiefer Sutherland, Jason Patrick, the Coreys. I mean, this film just screams 80s. And like I said, highly rewatchable. Not the greatest representation of vampires, but probably one that you think of at the top of your list. The Lost Boys is on my list, solidified at number 6. Going on to my top 5, these heavy hitters. Going off of back-to-back vampire films, I got at number 5, Near Dark. This is directed by Catherine Bigelow, starring the late, great Bill Paxton. This was the first time I saw Near Dark. It is about a cowboy named Caleb meeting a gorgeous May at a bar, and the two have an immediate attraction. When May turns out to be a vampire and bites Caleb on the neck, their relationship gets complicated. Wrapped with a craving for human blood, Caleb is forced to leave his family and ride with May and her team of vampires, including the evil Severin. Catherine Bigelow, not known for her horror films, this is a great film. It is a cult classic. It is one that I've always wanted to see and have never saw. And unfortunately, I couldn't find it on streaming services. But I happened to go to my local library and they had a copy on DVD. This is a great film, like I said. Jenny Wright, Lance Henriksen, the wonderful Bill Paxton. It is just a great film about vampires. It's got this punk vibe. It's definitely, the adverse of The Lost Boys. It's a little bit grittier, a little bit gorier, but full of energy, full of life, and again, one of the rare Catherine Bigelow horror films. If you like vampire movies, I would say that Near Dark has to be shot at the top of the list. It is definitely a great film. I mean, 1980s, especially 1987, was the year of the vampire. Going on to number 4, Angel Heart, another film that, because I didn't have Paramount Plus, it just ran out. I happened to go and find it at my local library. It is starring Robert De Niro, Mickey Rourke, and a young Lisa Bonet. Again, first time seeing it. This is about Harry Angel, Mickey Rourke, a private detective contacted by Louis Cypher, Robert De Niro, to track down a singer. However, everybody at Angel questions about the singer seems to meet a tragic demise. Eventually, the trail leads Angel to New Orleans, where he learns that the singer has dabbled in the black arts. Now, this film, set in 1955, Mickey Rourke definitely doesn't play like, the private detective, see? And like I said, this is more of a film noir, but it has supernatural horror elements and an iconography of a creature you'll see in the twist. It's undeniable in its horror roots. At number 3, top 3, Hellraiser. I had to do it. Clive Barker, he goes on to make Candyman. Sexual deviant Frank inadvertently opens a portal to hell when he tinkers with a box he bought while abroad. The act unleashes gruesome beings called Cenobites who tear Frank's body apart. When Frank's brother and his wife Julia move into Frank's old house, they accidentally bring what is left of Frank back to life. Frank then convinces Julia, his longtime lover, to lure men back to the house so he can use their blood to reconstruct himself. Now, this gives way to, BDSM, leather bars. It's just into that kinky, sexual, deviant shit. But Pinhead, iconography, I can't believe just these horror iconography giants were released in 1987. Hellraiser definitely solidified at the number 3 spot. Pinhead, Cenobites, sexual deviant acts. You gotta love Clive Barker and just the huge swings at bat, and this gives way to its own series, as well as a remake, I believe, as a Hulu original just as of late. Evil Dead 2 is at the number 2 spot. I had to do it. Sam Raimi, just great director. This is the second of 3 films in the Evil Dead series, with Ash Williams, Bruce Campbell, once again battling horrifying demons at a secluded cabin in the woods. After discovering an audio tape left by a college professor that contains voices reading from the Book of the Dead, Ash's girlfriend Linda becomes possessed by evil spirits that are awakened by the voice on the tape. Ash soon discovers there's no escaping the woods. Like I said, Evil Dead was an attempt at this. After Crime Wave was a critical and commercial flop, Sam Raimi knew that he had to go back and enhance what he did with the first Evil Dead, and this is a sequel as well as a remake of the original film, which is great. Bruce Campbell just as fun and very aloof as ever. Ash just has to be one of the greatest characters in horror. It has the slapstick, it has the horror, you gotta love it. Evil Dead 2 solidified at number 2. Now, what can be at the number 1 spot? It is a film that I didn't even heard of until this year, and this is Opera. It's an Italian slasher film, giallo film, I think it is. Mastermind Dario Argento. Opera tells the story of a hooded figure forces a young diva to watch as he murders performers in a production of Verdi's opera Macbeth. Dario Argento, the master of Italian horror filmmaking, was my first film. Like I said, I think I might have seen Suspiria because I've definitely seen that remake. But Opera, I was very immersed. I like that this is a horror whodunit. It's very visceral. The kills are very elaborate. Watch out, Saw. I think this is where the roots are. If you've seen a giallo film, you know that the blood and the gore is just thrown by buckets of blood, and this is no exception. I like the fact that even Argento, with the killer's trademark, he has the tape with the pins, the razors underneath the main character's eyes as he forces the main character to watch his murders, and she can't close her eyes because then the pins will be stuck in the eyelids. Just very visceral. I have things about eyes that just like kill me. I can't do it with eye stuff. It'll just get my eyes watery. This film is just a torture chamber of elaborate kills and whodunit, a very great mystery, noir, throwback, slasher film. You know where Scream gets its roots. You know where I know Did That Summer gets its roots. It comes from giallo films. It comes from the Italian mastermind, Dario Argento. I gotta go back and see more of his films because I was highly impressed with Opera. Now, this is basically released in 1987. In the US, it wasn't released until 1991. So I am cheating here a little bit, but it's because Orion, the production company, had its problems, but it did eventually release in 91, which happens to be the birth year of my brother Preston. But this is not his top 10, this is my top 10. Did you enjoy my top 10 horror films? I hope you did. Happy Halloween, everybody. You got a toast with me. I'm gonna go ahead and have a Snickers. It's gotta be the candy of choice here. Don't worry, this is not coffee. This is water. I know if you have already gone on to my next video, just enjoy me. Enjoy some candy. Have some water from my ghost face. I know he approves of my list, but do you? Let me know. Leave comments down below. And we'll see you on the next one. Happy Halloween, guys.